Guys, this is Gabe/Kev, I'm back into another crappy video. It's been a while, but we've been lazy, we're addicted to Lost Ark, but we really need to do a PC update while we're still relevant. We've wanted to, but you know how it is. But there's a couple of interesting things which will be relevant regardless of hardware, so we just want to do something. We're going to swap to this. We're going to start on the CPU side. And this is old, but I forgot about it and didn't mention it, but it's probably the most important thing with overclocking, so especially like 16 cores. So what I just did, if you didn't notice, start event viewer, and this is we've already got this set up. This just keeps track of Windows hardware events, so these are errors. So this will tell you which core crashed, and we learned this from a channel like a year and a half ago, but I forgot about it, and this is actually really important, especially when you've got 16 cores and you don't know what's crashing and which core are with your core offset. So we're still we're getting warnings, but if we go back in time to somewhere like back in the day, like back here, error. So you'll have error, fatal error, processor core, cache hierarchy, and then this is the important line here, processor ID. So this is which core crashed. So it's starting at 0, and you got to make sure in the BIOS, because sometimes the BIOS starts at core 1, but this starts at core 0. It's kind of like programming arrays, like index 0 versus index 1. So then you go back to that core and you just drop the offset, and then you'll keep going. And this is actually way better than any other method. So we're super slack. We need to go back and redo our OC, because first of all, at the time, what we thought was the CPU crashing was actually the GPU crashing. So it was just a cluster F. So we really need to go back and redo the CPU OC. But obviously 16 cores is fucking hard, dude. And there's so many settings. So yeah, and to make this, so right click on custom views, create custom. Here by source, event sources, all the way down to W, Windows hardware, WEA, WEA logger, then press OK, give it a name, and you can see it's the exact same output, and obviously sorted by time. So errors are obviously the system will crash, reboot. Warnings are, these days, because hardware is all dynamic boost clocks, stuff will try not to crash. So even if you're getting warnings, it's bad, because it means it's having to throttle back. So we're still dropping, and this is core 0, which isn't even one of our best cores. And I think this is just, there's like legacy software is hard coded to thread 0, and that's why this is crashing. So we're still dropping this, but like I said, we need to go back and redo everything, but we're so lazy, and plus we're addicted to Lost Ark, so we don't want to mess with stability right now. So that's on the CPU side. The next thing is Hardware Info released a new beta version that added GPU ASIC quality. So now you can check a stat. So your Hardware Info, you got to download the beta. I think it's been like a week or and a half, so I think it might be in the latest version. You typically run in sensors only, but to see this stat you have to uncheck. Can you see that on the, yeah, so you got to uncheck. You can't be in sensors only, otherwise it doesn't show up. There's obviously updates, and then you go to video adapter, your GPU, and you'll see here ASIC quality. There's your stats. So now you can see, oh, I've got a shit score because the the silicon is just shit, man. So like we got rank 1 in Australia. We don't even have, like, you got to remember there's my card was an XTX, so non-ultimate, so just a regular Red Devil. So it's 83. The XTX is like anywhere from 80 to 85%. And then obviously there's the ultimate versions, which is the cherry-picked silicon, and those can be like 89 to 95%. So, and they're the XTXH model, which they have higher memory and core clocks. So physically they're just better chips. So we have no reason to be near the top, but again, obviously you got to know how to optimize your settings and stuff. So we're getting a good score even with a dogshit card. And what this, obviously, people try to understand what this actually means, but obviously the cores are incredibly complicated, and there's what's called current leakage. So everything is so small, there's so much heat, there's so much electricity that it's leaking in the core, so that'll affect obviously your temps and stability and all that. So better silicon obviously has better, it's just better, so you can push it. But when it comes to heat, this cannot actually affect. This is where like water cooling comes into it, and it's like, I'm like, damn, maybe I should water cool, because temperature with water cooling, you can negate that penalty, but obviously like voltage can just fry stuff. But like, yeah, this is where like, even if you've got a shit score, as long as you're getting rid of the heat, it's not going to affect you. So this isn't like a deal breaker. It's not like you're completely fucked. We're talking about getting the, you know, plus 0.5% better score than someone else. Like, but so this is where like being able to remove the heat. Because there was a post, I should bring it up, but I don't have it ready. What this actually means, but like it's to do with current leakage and heat. And as long as you're getting rid of the heat, it's not like your card's dog shit. And if you have a really high score, meaning your core is really good for voltage and heat, it means that water cooling won't actually help it. So the shitter your number is, the better score you can get with water cooling. So now I'm like, damn, now I have to water cool. Like, water cooling, the thing I have with water cooling is just, obviously you're spending almost $3,000 for minimal performance benefit, and then it's not a case of I just turn on my computer and use it. You got to think, you know, when was the last time I checked the coolant? When was the last time I checked the fittings? Is anything leaking? How old's the pump? You know, like, it's just a whole nother level of maintenance that I don't want to deal with. I like to tinker, but I don't like to tinker that much. So yeah, that's a thing. So that's a little thing you can check about your GPU. A bit of fun trivia. So what started it all was the AMD 2231 driver came in, and people were saying it's good. Like, when you're following the forums, it's all about like how many people are, you know, obviously there's more responses, more people talking about the same thing, more people doing it, then you feel more confident that it's good. So it's all about just like adding to that mind share of like, it's a good driver. So the next thing is more power tool. We were reading, more people were talking about this. So I had issues where, if we go into, I could not get memory stable above like 2130, aside from the fact that whatever you set here, this is just a range and it's all dynamic, which just pisses me off. But so I couldn't get it was just a crapshoot. Like, sometimes you would pass, sometimes it would crash, and then you would have issues like flickering, like the display is flickering, and that's typically the memory. So more people were talking about this. So in More Power Tool, and the thing about More Power Tool, you have to remember every time you reinstall the driver, you have to redo the settings, every driver update, and also was there one other thing? I can't remember. Anyway, so we buffed. These are your memory voltage. The version. There's been like 8. This is an old version of More Power Tool, but it's not that important to update to the new one because the most important settings have been there since forever. So I don't think it's that important. But so this is your memory voltage and the states. So if you're getting idle crashes, you can adjust. You can boost the low states. And if you're getting like flickering, which I got under load, you can boost the top state. So more people were doing this, so we felt more confident. So we've tried, the stock is like 850 I think, and this was 1350. So we boosted the minimum and the max in both of these, the higher power states, and the flickering went away, and this has been rock solid. And the RAM was always such an issue since the beginning, and if you go back to watch the original reviews, like even they had weird issues with overclocking where and it wasn't stable, or it wasn't giving better performance. And that's another thing, like everything's dynamic clocks, so it's a slot machine doing a bench run to get a max score, which makes it a pain in the ass because you'll get that god run and you'll be like, oh my god, but it's like everything's dynamic clocks, it's dynamic heat, so it can be really frustrating. So we boosted the voltage, and I can also say like our power limits, we're currently at 400, 425 and 70. You remember way back in the day I was like, eventually you'll probably set this to infinity, and then there was that guy that set this to infinity. We never heard from him again, so I think we know what happened. So you can't just go crazy with this, but as an air-cooled card, and I'm in Australia where it's summer right now, so it's a bad time to be hitting records. It's 30C ambient plus 98F plus, so it's a bad time to try set any records, which is a fool's bit, and that's kind of like why I want to get into water cooling, but I already said like my issues with it. So yeah, boosting the memory. Then I can't remember if we boosted the min. We might have boosted these ones, and then like there's shitloads of settings. We've also played with F clock. Now that the memory is stable with this boosted memory, we should go back and try to boost the F clock, because we tried 2150 but it wasn't stable. Like there's so much you can play with, but again, are you addicted to Lost Ark? Do you need stability? Are you excited? You go through phases where you're like, this is exciting, then you're like sick of it. So yeah, we really need to go back. Hopefully maybe making this video will make me motivated to go back, because I really need to go back and redo all of our overclocks. So that's the memory boost. So the driver, people are talking about it being good. So what did we get? I said it's summer, so it's a bad time to be hitting records, unfortunately. Oh my god, I hate when Windows does that. So we did hit a PR on Firestrike, and we got our highest overclock we ever got, 2775. So we set a 150 range in because it's all dynamic clocks. People found that stability is better when you keep like a 150 megahertz range. Obviously this is our stable, not our max clocks, because this is firestrike, not timespy, and timespy is the more relevant DX12 high load. So we hit a new record, 3600. Our previous rank 1 was 45,800. And if we go to firestrike rank, obviously it's been a year and the Intel 12th gen CPUs came out, so we didn't take rank 1 again, but we took rank 2. And obviously Intel is always favoured for the single thread scores, but I'm pretty happy we took back rank 2 with our dogshit unoptimized settings, this dumbass right here, and we actually passed a run. We did a run at 2800, so 2650 to 2800, but the score didn't go up. So this is where you got to be careful to, I think it's also a case of it's summer, so temps, it's a really bad time to try to go for max scores, and dynamic boost, so like the variability on just one run can be huge. So I'm pretty sure we could have just done more runs and just slot machined to a better score, but I'm pretty happy with that. So that's firestrike rank 2, and then unfortunately timespy we didn't hit a PR. We tried 2750, but it crashed, and we could only pass with 2725. But again, it's summer, so it's a bad time for us to be. It's summer in Australia. And the other thing, like, so we don't have a XTXH, so we don't even have an ultimate card, and we're using a 16-core Ryzen. 3D Mark does not support 16 cores. You get a higher CPU score turning SMT off. So like this is an Intel BIOSed benchmark. Like, so the fact that we're able to compete is hilarious. We've got a dogshit GPU and we've got 16 cores that don't even get used in this benchmark. So the result, we were formerly rank 4, I think, and the current result, this is not a PR, but again it's hot, so it's a bad time to try hit a PR. Our PR is back from the 292 driver, 22878, and at the time that was like 4th, but obviously the 12th gens Intels have come out, and just some new players posting scores, but we're still pretty happy with, given how shit our hardware and settings are. So that's the driver and GPU settings. So now we'll just mention this just quickly. I'll just put our memory settings. So the most important part is we hit 3733 F clock, and so obviously half of that is the F clock, but it took 1.53, so there were just too many people barbecuing their memory, so we were like, I won't let them barbecue their memory first, I'll beat them by barbecuing. When there's plenty of people doing it, you feel more safe. I found, because there's a lot of people who just don't know anything, just talking about everything. I didn't find any of these IOD or VDTP. I couldn't. We want 3800, so 1900 F clock, but we just couldn't boot. It just wouldn't boot. And people would say maybe IOD or the VDT. None of this made any difference. So we could only get 37, 33 stable. And these are only the important ones, like the RFC 4 TRC have been changed. So this is stock XMP with slight tweaks. So we can do way more here, but obviously memory OC is awful because A, there's so many settings, B, no one knows what any of them do, C, every time it crashes, some of the custom memory settings persist through a BIOS reset. So even though you cleared the BIOS, some of these settings persist and the BIOS can't boot, and you're just stuck in a boot loop for like 15 minutes until it realizes, yeah, it's pretty fucked, we're just gonna clear. So we still have PTSD from boot loop, so we really want the 3800 speed and 1900 F clock. And there's actually been, so we can get onto there's been 2 updates with AGISA, and AGISA is going to affect CPU overclocks, as well as the BIOS will affect memory. So while this has been stable, so we've been slacking on 2 gigabyte BIOS updates. So shit we need to do is do those BIOS updates. We don't want to do it though because you lose your BIOS and then you have to put all the settings back in, and sometimes settings persist through a BIOS wipe so that it can't even boot because it's trying to boot half of like very extreme settings and it's just stuck in a boot loop. So we need to boot. I'll just say on the memory 153. So we're pretty high. I would definitely check your memory temps. Like we were hitting like 50. I can't remember. It was like 53 degrees. Like after like hours of pretty intense gaming or whatever. So obviously we've got 13 fans. So plenty of airflow, but I would definitely check your temps. We've also got all 4 DIMMs populated, so there's a lot of heat there. So if you're going to push that high, I would definitely check. And there's also the gear down. So gear down and command rate. This actually. It's like you set, this is another, it's like an extra layer of entropy on your memory overclock. So you think you've got all these settings, and then you set gear down and command rate, which halves whatever your whatever the values are. So even though you think I'm like memory I was seeing, but then you set gear down and it halves whatever benefit you had, but you need this to get stable. So it's kind of like you fucked both ways. But yeah, like the main goal is just to get 3800 at timings at the same XMP timings. That's the goal. So at least XMP or better, and 3800, that's the goal. But obviously a MemOC is a pain in the ass. So yeah, so shit to do. We have 2 BIOS updates we've been slacking on. Refine our MemOC, redo our CPU OC. We want to repaste our GPU, like, because I was saying it's summer. We're hitting. We should look at the temperature. Does this? Yeah. So don't look at. I hate how they split this up. Junction, so hotspot. This is the most important one, and this is the one that'll affect stability and crashing. So this is just the hottest temperature you can find on the core. And with if we go back to our more power tool, we're air cooled. It's summer in Australia. We've got unlocked. Is that on the screen? Yeah. 400, 425. So with the plus 15, so in timespy GP test 2, we're hitting 430. and 99 degrees max at 100% fans. So we're definitely thermally limited, and I think that's why we couldn't get stable above 2725. So that's where either water cooling, we want to open it up and repaste it and replace the memory pad. So that's something we want to do, but we're too lazy. Plus, it's not difficult, but if the GPU is badly glued, you can just crack something just pulling it open. And obviously, prices are still awful, so it's a bad time to brick your GPU. I guess I should say everything that I've said, take with a grain of salt. It's your risk. Obviously, it's working for me, and I just want to get my experience out there, because the more people doing it, the more confident you are that it's not going to brick your GPU. We don't want to wait till like we buy our next GPU and then open it up. We want to do it now and not be a fucking pussy, but it's a bad time, plus we're lazy and we're addicted to Lost Ark. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up. That's what we've been up to. We really want to do a lot of stuff, but we're lazy. Maybe this video will motivate us to do something. Maybe talk shit in the comments, motivate me to do something. But yeah, we just wanted to give a quick update while we're still relevant. So yeah, until the next time, goodbye.